My name's Lynn Hill. I'm one of the continence nurse specialists here in UHL, and I'm here to talk to you about our In Reach service. Next slide, please. I just want to introduce our team first. We're a small team of continence nurse specialists and a healthcare assistant, and we cover all adult inpatient and outpatient services for continence care within UHL. Next slide, please. So the reason that we decided to sort of focus on our Continence In Reach service was that when we first came into post after our predecessors retired, we provided a questionnaire to patients to find out about their continence needs and to find out about their experience around continence within the trust. And we found out that a lot of their continence care needs were possibly not what we would have expected. People were quite reliant on pads, and the staff were reliant on pads. And we just wanted to try and get away from this and promote continence rather than thinking that the only way to treat continence is through things like pad use. Next slide, please. So, in terms of the In Reach service, it is a service that is based on the frailty units in our emergency departments. And what we aim to do is we case find patients on those areas, and we then try and provide personalised assessments and treatment plans for them. So we see the patients, we assess them, and give them a full level 2 continence assessment, and then we often actually do some of the treatment ourselves, so we're quite hands-on service, but then we also provide a treatment plan that may include treatment for when they go home in the longer term. We also use things like education and lifestyle advice, as this is one of our first lines of treatment in continence care. And it often has really, really good effects rather than using medication first. The service also aims to promote early discharge because we are able to identify continence problems early and conditions early, like constipation. And those things in the elderly can often then lead to conditions like delirium. So by identifying them and treating them, we can then treat the delirium sooner, and patients then get a better experience and often an earlier discharge. And we have the ability of continuity of care. We're able to follow patients up in our outpatients department. So when we see patients on our In Reach service, if we feel that we need to follow them up when they go to the ward areas, or if we need to follow them up when they leave hospital, we can refer directly into our outpatient clinic and review those patients there as an ongoing treatment plan. We also aim to educate staff and engage staff through continence promotion, and we've been doing quite a lot of things regarding that, and you'll see some of that later. We've also been the first specialist nurse team in the trust to develop a student nurse placement for student nurses that are on their frailty placement. So they spend 2 weeks with us, and we aim from that to try and help them see how important continence care is. And then by doing that, we hope that if we can develop some passion about continence in them, they will then, as nurses of the future, provide good continence care for patients. We also have other staff members shadowing us, and that can include people like some of our registrars, junior doctors, and also we have people like pharmacists that often shadow us, or HCAs. Next slide, please. So our impact and results. We've invested in continence, and we feel that by doing that, it has real positive outcomes. Over the last 18 months or so, we've really increased our visibility in the trust. And by doing that, that's increased our referrals. And as a result of that, we then wrote a paper which went to our Nursing and Midwifery Quality Board. And it's really put continence on the agenda, right up there with things like tissue viability. Continence is often seen as a bit of a Cinderella service. So I think we've done extremely well in trying to promote it to that level. But also as a result, we've been able to get funding for an extra nurse who is specialising in harm-free care associated with continence, and that then promotes quality of care. Next slide, please. So our impact on referrals, as you can see, they've doubled. Now, we run two sorts of inpatient services. We run the In Reach service, which I'm talking about today, but we also have inpatient services. And as a result of the increase in the In Reach services and our focus on continence, our inpatient referrals have increased as well, and we found that they've doubled in both areas. Next slide, please. And we've also had a lot of really good patient feedback. So when we're doing the In Reach service, we do look at getting patient feedback, and we found that 95% of patients said that their experience with us was either good or very good. Next slide, please. And 100% of patients would recommend the service. There were some really nice comments as well, and one that I think is important is that we paid attention and listened to the patient. Continence care, people have like really bothersome symptoms, but often because it's such a taboo subject, they won't talk about the thing that is the most bothersome to them. And by listening to them, they then open up, and then we can find out what is the most bothersome symptom to them. So I think that's really important, and that's one of the key things that we need to be doing. Next slide, please. We also surveyed staff as well, just to find out what they felt about the service. And 98% of staff actually felt that this service should be recommended in other departments or other trusts. And they also rated the service good as well, or very good. 98% of people recommended it as very good or good. Next slide, please. We've also raised awareness within the Trust of Continence. The In Reach service has really been a driver in doing this. And we've developed some pathways, our adult bladder and bowel care pathway that you can see here. And we've utilised those as well in terms of developing our electronic core nursing elimination care assessments. What we did a survey of our assessments at the beginning of the year, and we found out from that lots of the assessments weren't being done at the right time, but also there was no outcome to the assessment. So we didn't know what type of incontinence a person was experiencing. So we used our adult bladder and bowel care pathways to be built into these assessments, and they now give us an outcome from that. So if people put in different symptoms, they will then it will then give them the outcome and the type of incontinence that a person may be experiencing, and then it can be treated appropriately. Next slide, please. So in terms of our relevance to other groups, we've been really, really flexible and adaptable during COVID, and in some ways, COVID has actually helped our service. We found that we had less patients in the frailty units during COVID, so we transferred it to other areas. And we also want to transfer this service into the emergency department. Next slide, please. So we've just got some key learning points. You really have to be passionate about continence for things like this to work. Obviously, we've surveyed patients, and you need to be adaptable as well, and adapt things like your criteria and be clinically visible. Next slide, please. So our future success, what's our wow factor? It's our creativity and innovation. We've been really creative, and I'd just like to show you a short clip of a video we've produced at Christmas last year. This video has gone viral. It's an educational video, and we also promoted it on BBC Radio Leicester. Next slide, please.
Day of continence, my nurse said to me, don't delay the urge, good exercise, leg elevation, continence aids, regular toileting, drink less before bedtime, fruit fetch 5 a day, double void is the key. 6 to 10 minutes daily, toileting position, squeeze your pelvic floor, smooth relief, cavity and heart.